Matt Barber, he's with Concerned Women of America. He says an employer should be able to hire and fire as they please. All right, Matt, let's lay this one out. Someone is gay or lesbian, and you say that's reason enough to fire them, huh?
Well, first of all, let me say that this bill, ironically, would codify the very thing that it purports to prevent, and that is workplace discrimination. It would require that people of faith who happen to be business owners, the Muslim, the Jew, the Christian, abandon his First Amendment guaranteed religious liberties at the workplace door and adopt a view of human sexuality that runs entirely counter to central tenets of his faith. And proponents of this bill, the authors of this bill, have even acknowledged that a religious exemption is necessary, but the Constitution says that a religious exemption follows the individual. They want the exemption to follow, say, a church or a religious organization, but any religious exemption for it to pass constitutional muster would have to follow the individual.
Let's clarify that. So there is a religious exemption in here. So if it's a church, a religious affiliated business, correct?
Well, let me say the original bill, and they haven't decided which version they're going to go with, the original bill would only protect maybe a church, Christian bookstores, Christian schools, Christian soup kitchens, religious camps and organizations like that would not be exempt. So the religious exemption is really illusory, but the point is that they've admitted, they've stipulated that there's a need for a religious exemption, but the religious exemption, the First Amendment, applies to the individual. It doesn't apply to an organization. So for this to pass constitutional muster, any religious exemption would have to apply to the individual business owner.
All right, I want to clarify your position before we move ahead and get Keith Boykin in on this. So you're saying if Muslim, Jew, Christian, by their religious beliefs, they have problems with someone's lifestyle. Whether it's it could be a secular business, totally had nothing to do with religion. You say even if that employer at that point has issue with their lifestyle, then they can fire them still.
This bill pits the government directly against free exercise of religion, which is unconstitutional on its face. That business owner has the right, the guaranteed constitutional right, to consider their sincerely held religious beliefs when making decisions relative to how they want to own and operate their own business.
All right, Keith Boykin, he's an openly gay attorney, also host of the BET show My Two Cents. Keith, I don't think a question's needed here. You weigh on this. What's your thoughts?
Oh, I think Matt's exactly wrong. The religious exemption in this bill clearly allows religious schools, religious institutions, churches, places of worship to be exempt from the law. In addition, small businesses are also exempt from the law. So if you have a small Christian business with 10 employees, for example, you don't have to apply to this, you don't have to abide by this law. These are the same arguments that are being raised now that were raised against the Civil Rights Act in 1964, which included African Americans for protection. They tried to say then that you're violating the right of people to decide whom they want to associate with, the religious objections. There were some churches that didn't allow blacks and whites to interact with each other. We got over those 40 years ago, and we need to get over those today. It's time to move forward. It's unacceptable for discrimination to be practiced legally in this country, and for people like Matt to defend it is intolerable.
Well, I would ask Keith, if there needs to be a religious exemption, why, if this law is so great, why does there need to be a religious exemption? Should it apply across the board? It's unconstitutional if there's not a religious exemption.
Go ahead, Keith, last word.
There's a religious exemption in every bill. You know, the point is you have people like Cheryl Somerville in Atlanta, Georgia, who was fired from her job at a Cracker Barrel restaurant because she was given a pink slip that said she's gay. That's what's going on in America. In 30 states, it's still legal to fire somebody because of their sexual orientation. And in 20 states where it's not legal, where it's been outlawed, those states haven't had this problem that you're talking about, Matt. So you're creating this parade of horribles that is not likely to happen. It hasn't happened in any of those 20 states.
All right, gentlemen,
let's deal with reality.
Gentlemen, we're going to have to leave it there. Keith Boykin, Matt Barber, we appreciate your time. And Erica, in continuing to research this, a lot of this boils down to, once again, born gay or not. That's at the heart of this issue, and I'm sure we're going to be picking up again soon.
Because that's at the heart of a lot of people's beliefs.
Exactly.
All right, Mike, thanks.